Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFish Report. Today is Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. And this is a special report, and I have with me to present this report regarding the California fires is Dr. Scott Warner. Thanks, Scott, for being with us today.
Hey, you're sure welcome. I love being on your show. And, our message is actually very hopeful, but we need to tell people the truth about what's happening.
Okay, so again, I think what Scott was trying to understand was, he went to St. Germain and asked why was this happening and how do we understand it? How do we process it? But first, before we get to that message, I'm going to screen share some images of what's really happening out there. I don't know to the extent that mainstream media is covering it, but this is one of them. And it seems like, Scott, you might want to describe this.
Well, these are incendiary bombs. They literally blow up in the sky and shoot fire out,
Mm-hmm.
start things on fire, and they're extremely hot. These are new weapons
Mm-hmm.
that are being used, and my massage therapist actually saw fire raining down from the sky
Yeah.
exactly like this on Tuesday of last week, and a
Mm.
week ago,
Look,
3 days before
what's
this
that?
actually happened.
What's that up there, Scott? Can you see where it's coming from? Take a look. You see, it
Yeah,
looks like it's just exploding up there, right? In like
yeah,
almost like a firework, right?
yeah. It's an incendiary bomb,
Mm.
and literally it's dropped down and exploded above the ground, shooting out the highly energized
Mm.
uh, shards,
Mm-hmm.
and it literally starts everything on fire, and hot fires. I mean, these are weapons that are just diabolical.
And we don't. Oh, these look like what people call directed energy weapons, and they're definitely pointed towards forest areas. Here,
Yeah, you look at these and you can see the power coming from
yeah,
these things. They're laser beams,
right.
energy directed weapons, and they are so hot. They melt
Mm.
steel, they melt cars.
Mm.
I mean, and
Look
they
at that.
start these fires that are
Hmm.
just incredible.
Right. It's hard to believe. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so our viewers can get a better picture. Look at this. Did you ever see anything like this?
Yeah, it's just crazy.
These fires are burning. One report, and we're gonna find it at over 2,000, over to maybe 2,400 degrees. They usually forest fires, according to this one post that we're gonna find. Look at this whole truck was gone. This is amazing. How does
Yeah,
that happen? I mean,
melted. And look at the trees next to it aren't even touched.
yeah. Wait, let's go back and take a look at that. Let's see that. Exactly. What we're finding is trees that are burning from the inside out, which actually would indicate microwave, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
yes.
Okay, so that would be microwave. So there could be multiple types of weapons being used. I did put a poll. Look at that. Just burnt right on the side of the road. People had no chance to get out of their cars. Some
Yeah,
people were burned to death right in their cars.
and yet the trees are not burned, showing these are directed weapons,
Right,
specifically hitting metallic objects in homes.
exactly. Now this bridge, okay, someone had made a comment that this is asphalt and steel. Um, that steel doesn't, I think it's about what, 20, I don't know, folks, you can correct me, but until I find it in the report here, it's, you can listen to that, sizzling. Steel burns at what, Scott? Is it 24 or 2,700 degrees? I think it's 2,700 degrees.
Yeah, and
Forest fires are usually, they usually burn at what, 1,700? So something is making these,
1700
yeah,
degrees.
something's making these very, very hot. And this is what it looks like. This is a new technology called, it's a drone. They use drones to do it, directed energy weapons. And look at that. This forest fire only burned down its two buildings that I think that there was a relationship. Who was it? So CNN had no idea it was started 60 strikes that came out of nowhere in the middle of the night. And then the winds, of course, I'm sure the winds have picked this up, but the Santa Ana winds there are usually pretty strong and pretty intense. So it's not helping. But here we have a post from QAnon talking about what happens when California is in serious debt and lost priority aid from the federal government due to sanctuary status for illegals. They light fires. They declare a state of emergency and request billions from the federal government. Why did POTUS reject this in the past? Sick people, the more you know. Because he knew. He knew that they were doing this. Now, I was out in Arizona recently, and Scott, you're out in that desert area too, and you know that they do controlled burns quite often because the low-lying, I'm not an expert on it, but I've seen them do it. The low-lying foliage is fuel, and so they try to burn that off so that it inhibits the spread of these fires. But it doesn't look like California's been doing that, and I think that's what President Trump was referring to in his comments. Look at this. I mean, absolutely, these people's lives are destroyed. There's also, you have, look at that. Oh my God, before and after. Would you
Notice
look at
how the
that?
trees are all pretty much still alive,
Yep,
and they've still got their leaves on.
they do. The
And
house is gone.
these were directed at the homes, and possibly, these smart
There you go.
devices they're putting on the homes for
Right.
what they say detecting, your amount of electrical use. These things actually can shoot more energy through your house, heating up the wiring system, starting fires internally.
Yeah, like spontaneous combustion, you mean?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of reports that these are homes that have these smart meters, but I can't confirm that. These are reports of that. This is very, very concerning. And of course, there is Deborah Tavares from StopTheCrime.net, who has been really sounding the alarm about the plans to burn up Northern California, which is what is happening. And
Yeah.
it's very serious, folks. We better wake up to this very quickly because they're really, progressing very quickly on this. I think we already showed this video, but we will.
Oh, we didn't. This is
They
showing
showed this one.
weapons.
The video, the sounds are very loud on it. I'm just going to keep it down, but you can definitely feel you can hear it. It's very intense.
Yeah, you see that laser come down from the sky,
Right.
and it's just hotter than all get out.
And here it is. I mean, look at this. Trees are touched just a little bit, but not that much.
Yep.
And we have very sad, very, very sad. Thousands of people lost their homes, animals, all their personal belongings, didn't even have time to grab their important documents. This is why it's so important, folks, to have it all together. Have everything you need, have it together, prepare your documents. We don't know where this is going to happen next. And I'm doing a poll. Look at this. Look at these people's lives just destroyed. This isn't a natural phenomenon, is it, Scott?
No, this is totally energized weapons hitting all of these homes.
It's unreal.
I've heard a lot of speculation that they're just trying to get all these people moved out, and what better
Right.
way than to destroy their homes?
Oh, it's exactly what's going to happen. These people can't come back. In fact, I think what they did with the last fires was they had banned people from coming back to the area because they said some side of contamination or something. But it looks like they are just trying to force people into the urban cities, which is very consistent with the 2030 agenda. Folks, better wake up. Got to wake up to this, and you got to do something about it because. You have to realize our world is controlled by a select few, and they make the decisions for us. They give us the illusion that we live in a free country while they control and regulate us up the wazoo. Look, if this is the kind of incarnation you want to live, the kind of life you want to live, then go for it. But I'm telling you, this is no way for our souls to evolve. This is no way for our souls to advance. This is no way for humanity to evolve. I disagree. I think, if they think this is going to bring us all together, I think
Notice
it's a bad idea. I don't know.
notice how hot that picture is. It's like molten lava, but it's
Yeah,
melting from that beam coming down and hitting
right.
it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And here's some more. Where is the drone that this is coming from? How come we can't find that picture? Here is there's some people are. I don't think those are related
They
actually.
can shoot this from stealth.
Yeah, we already showed that. Let me keep moving on to another one here, and let me stop screen share for just a second because I want to. Um, um, yeah, here we go. Let's just screen share that again. There's just a couple more, and then we're going to get on to the message that Scott has for us today, because how do we even make sense of this? Um, there is a film on here. There is a video about, I think I already showed these. I'm just looking for some new ones. Yeah. Um, how do we make sense of this, Scott? I mean, is this going to try some, what is the intent of this somehow to make us come together and, or is this, to force us into a, look, it's very Nazi, if you ask me. I mean, this is very, very Nazi, this kind of a plan and agenda to kind of force people into, these more urban settings or more, structured setting environments, and then, um, have mass control of people, and then inflict, draconian, laws and measures in order to take guns away. We're losing our country, folks. I mean, nobody's standing up. Not, well, there's people who are, but you know what? Their voices aren't loud enough. They have to be louder. This is, and I'm going to do a special report this week on immigration, because I felt that there was a lot of information. I wanted to get to the bottom of what's the real issue. And of course, ultimately, the Supreme Court's going to make a decision about it. But I wanted to know from a policy perspective, what are we really looking at? And there's several. I alluded to yesterday in our POTUS report with Jim Fetzer. I started to allude to some of these acts and laws that have been passed, one, in fact, that the president was referring to. But we're going to go over it in a little bit more detail so people can understand what the real issue is, because people just seem to want to pick sides without even educating themselves. And what I'm trying to do is provide that education and information so people can understand that it's not that simple. It's not a very simple argument. Maybe you can simplify it, but you have to know the background, and you have to have that information. Look at this, just melted. All right, so we already showed this. All right, Scott. So this is horrible. This is not a forest fire exactly.
No,
See,
it's
look at that.
not a campfire started that.
Scott, this is looking more and more like what you're saying, to be honest. This looks like a
It's directed weapons.
it looks like what you're saying, that like either a smart meter attached to these homes incited, these homes,
Yep,
or it was like a beam of some kind,
yep,
because they're right in the footprint of the home. They're
yep.
burning only in the footprint of the home. They're leaving the walls and driveways spared. It
Yep.
looks like, I don't know. I don't know.
It's
I,
definitely not a forest fire. And the thing about this is we as people, we're not educating ourselves. We're the more dummied down we are, the more mind controlled we are, the less we are in control of our own life. And so
Here, this former DARPA senior scientist, Dr. Paul Baccio, asserts that cell phone towers pose an intentional and immediate lethal threat against the general public of the United States. I have seen this reported before, that the cell phone towers do emit microwaves. That's how they work, and they can be used to target individuals, to individual homes, and so forth. Um, but you know what? The sheep will just stay asleep. They'll keep sleepwalking. They
yeah.
just don't, I don't understand why people don't think for themselves anymore. Why they think they need to they think that they're educated by listening to mainstream media, who is, it does not have their best interest in mind. That's my opinion.
Well, they're just telling them lies that are covering up things that are actually happening.
Yeah.
And
So this is the story, and we're trying to make sense of this, Scott, and I'm hoping that Saint Germain has some kind of insight and hope for people. I think we need some hope so badly. We need hope right now. And
Absolutely.
you're usually always the man that's got some for us, so we are ready. We're ready to have some hope.
Yes. First off, I want to, apologize to all the people who've been trying to get information from us. We're getting emails and we mark them as important, and then I'm supposed to look at them, and I've been pathetically behind. There's so much coming at us that all of us are in these kind of situations. And so we don't want to go into shame, blame, and guilt, because literally that vibrates at the very lowest vibration you can vibrate. Now, I'm going to share something with you today called the map of consciousness. And do I double click? Yeah, there it is. And this map of consciousness goes, what it is, David Hawkins, MD, PhD, he was actually a psychiatrist. And he would have people come in and he would say they'd bring their medicine that he had prescribed to them, such as Prozac or, other antidepressants. And they would put them on his desk and they say, "Doc, this tested not good for me." And he said, "Who tested it?" And he said, "My chiropractor." They'd say, my massage therapist. And he's like, "Well, how did they test them?" "Kinesiology. They tested it against my body and it made my body weak." And he would look at them and say, "That's a bunch of hogwash." And so he got so many people doing this to him, he finally determined, I'm going to study this kinesiology and prove once and for all it's a bunch of hogwash and it's not real. And scientifically, he started doing studies on kinesiology. And guess what he found out? That it actually works. And when he found it, he started testing everything. And then he found there was no charts or logarithmic scales with which to put the energy of what he was testing. And so he developed what he called the map of consciousness, which is this. And the highest vibrations are from 700 to 1,000. Now, this is logarithms. So 100 to 200 is actually 1,000 times higher vibration. So when you're in fear, 1,000 times higher is courage. And so what the government's trying to do is put us into guilt, shame, and blame and despair. They're probably trying to put us into fear, anxiety, and think about all the people, grief, tragedies, tragic, frightening things, disappointment, cravings, all these lower vibrations.
Right. Well, grief is a natural part of healing too, though, and it's just part of the healing process. It's not like anger.
Well,
I'm actually maybe no, I'm sorry. I mean, of all people with my psychology background, I do know anger is part of the healing process of grieving and things like that.
You
But
have to go through these levels, but if they can keep you down in the shame, blame, and
right,
guilt,
right,
literally, they have total mind control over you. You have
right,
no power when you are down in these vibrations
right.
that are so low.
I mean, shame is not a necessary part of healing, but some of these are. It's just that it's a stage that you go through. So some of it's natural, but some of it they try to, I think what you're saying here is that that they are creating these, I guess you would say creating these events in order to keep people in a low vibration, keep people from really overcoming it. When you overcome it, you're on that logarithmic level, I think you're saying. Is that right, Scott?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing. They've found that if they can keep you below courage,
Mm-hmm.
that they can mind control you. So everything down below courage. Now, courage at 200, he found is emanating as much positive energy as negative energy. So you're about 50-50. You're in and out. But when you get into courage, you make decisions that actually bring you up into making better decisions. Now, neutrality was Dr. Hawkins found that if people are in neutrality, they can look at both aspects. In other words, look at the good, look at the bad, and start making decisions. And then you move up into a willingness to change, which is about 300, and you become hopeful, which hope is it doesn't seem that high, but hope gives us optimism even. Mm-hmm. And it helps us to start intention, which will actually get us into the higher vibrations. Now, one of the reasons Saint Germain wanted me to present this to you is this is Christ consciousness. Right. So Christ consciousness is when we love each other, we take good care of each other, we want what's best for each other. And the other energy down here is anti-Christ consciousness. So if you're below 200, you're in that anti-Christ consciousness. Now, the Bible speaks about the Antichrist. Well, the Antichrist isn't a person, it's a movement of energy that is against the love consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yes, in fact, we've reported this before on GoldFish Report that the Antichrist was a consciousness, just like Christ is a consciousness. Exactly. It's definitely, as Winston always talked about, he always gave allegories, and so it's the Bible. Oftentimes provides allegories, and it's up to us to sit and ponder these things and figure them out.
Yes. And as we ponder and meditate, we actually move into Christ consciousness when we are disgusted and looking at all our faults, and we're angry, and we're fearful, we're in grief, apathy, all the lower vibrations, we're in an antichrist consciousness. Now, the Cabal knows if they can keep us in the antichrist consciousness, we will not go through the ascension. In other words, we won't get in the higher vibrations where we will evolve. They don't want us to evolve. They want us to stay enslaved. They want us to stay in a lower consciousness. And by having horrible things happen, like what happened to Paradise, California, it puts us into a lower vibration if we allow it to, and keeps us from getting into the Christ consciousness.
Right.
So one of the biggest messages Saint Germain wants us to know is we need to get 50% up, which is up above the vibration of 200. We need to get courageous and start paying attention to what's going on around us and consciously move everything into higher vibration. And that's a very important message because, these people who've lost their homes, they're destitute. They lost all their pictures. They lost everything. And it's put them down into lower vibrations. Right. And so the message is we need to help each other, not only telepathically, but as human beings, we need to communicate love, kindness, giving to the people that have been injured. And that's a part of us healing, is our giving those energies puts us into a higher vibration, and it helps lift them up into a higher vibration. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And I think that we talked about it yesterday on the POTUS report about what we can do to help people. And I think everybody's heart is really, bleeding for these people in a sense, or aching for them, because we can all just imagine ourselves in that situation. There was, and I think I posted it. I might not have posted it because I couldn't confirm it independently at that point. But there was a Sikh temple
Oh,
in the nearby area in California that was collecting goods for people, clothing, supplies, things for children. Now, just so you know, a Sikh temple is not Muslim, it is Indian. Okay, so the Sikhs, so you understand the difference, and I'm not an expert on it, but I have friends who schooled me after 9/11 who are from India, so they wanted to make sure that I understood the difference, because just because someone wears a turban doesn't make them Muslim. In fact, they're mostly Sikhs that wear them. So um, you know, in case you have any kind of ambivalence about approaching a temple, or that you don't understand, I think that right now we're all brothers and sisters, and that's really the message, isn't it, Scott?
oh, absolutely.
That regardless of whether you're a Sikh, a Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian, that we're all brothers and sisters. I mean, when tragedies like this happen, you know, how funny those differences just disappear when you're
Yeah.
in the middle of it.
You
Isn't
know,
that?
yeah. You know what's interesting is we've got all of these visitors from other galaxies here watching the humans, because whatever happens with our consciousness will follow with the consciousness that will spread throughout the universe.
Mm.
And they're here watching to hopefully help us develop this love consciousness, this Christ consciousness that will spread love throughout the universe. Now, if we go the other route, it will spread contention, wars, fear, destitution, all these bad things throughout the universe. So what's happening on the earth is we are literally the biggest experiment going on in the conscious universe, and the whole universe is conscious. And so the message from Saint Germain is the most important thing we need to focus on is loving each other, taking better care of each other, getting off our devices. You know, we are so integrated into the artificial intelligence right now
Here we
that
are.
it's incredible.
It's terrible.
When I was talking to Saint Germain, you know, he had me put a whole chapter in the book, The Next Step in Human Evolution, about artificial intelligence. And the reason why is humans are creating it. And we are creating the most diabolical artificial intelligence on the planet. There's a guy who just wrote a book about this. And, you know, it's about, you know, what was the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator?
Terminator, yeah.
And the book is called Terminated. And he's got a picture of a Terminator robot on the front. And he talks about how the Antichrist energy is preparing us for artificial intelligence. And right now, currently, 60% of the population is under AI control. That's more than half of us. And you can see why the elections went the way they did, is because people aren't making their own free choice. They're following the artificial intelligence that is telling them to do certain things.
Well, you know, it's a little scary because just recently, this past week, I made I made 3 mistakes when I was doing my reports that I knew, you know, I knew the truth of the matter, but I said something different. It wasn't a distruth, it was just a mistake. It was the wrong date. I even said the wrong year. I had my viewers were like, 2017, Louisa, I don't think so. You know, and I didn't catch it when it happened. I
Yeah.
only caught it after I listened. Once I upload the videos, after I process the video and I upload them, you know, they start to play automatically as I'm doing this, and then I just hear myself announcing the date and everything. And I said, February? What is that? This is November, not February. And I wondered, how could that happen? How could I say that? You know, and I'm just wondering how funny that is.
Well,
I was in DC when it happened.
yeah, you know what's interesting is, you know, when they go to this 5G, it's even going to intensify that artificial intelligence in us even more. And the transhumanists want to implant these things in our brains you know, to supposedly make us more intelligent, but it's going to put us into a collective consciousness of those who control that collective consciousness.
Mhm.
It's not going to allow more freedom. It's actually going to enslave these people even more. They may be more
It is.
intelligent, but they're downloading whatever is being programmed in.
And not only that, Scott, I mean, it's definitely affecting children in a huge way. And of course, the kids are having sleep problems. They're having all kinds of, well, just look, I mean, when they get together with their friends and they just play games on these devices instead of interact, make mud pies, walk in the woods, or go, use their imagination to entertain themselves. It's sad to see that society, it's been engineered this way, I believe, but society is such that, a lot of people just don't even have those environments. Only really privileged people can have those environments for kids to play in. A lot of kids might not live in a safe neighborhood, or might not live in a neighborhood where there's much of that to offer, or where there's very few parks. So sometimes parks get taken over by the big kids, and then it's not safe for the little kids to go play. So it's really, it's this social engineering dynamic that people have to snap out of and realize that, you know, um, our federal parks are sacred land for the people. They're for the public. So you want to make sure they don't get, um, leased out to private developers for 100 years, like they were trying to do in some waterfront parks, and make sure that we keep them open for the public so people can actually be out in nature. And I'm telling you, how many people, Scott, have said we are losing our connection with nature?
Oh,
And
absolutely. And you know, it was interesting. Last Friday night, my daughter and her friends went and played hide and seek for the first time in their lives. And here she is, 13 years old.
so are the Democrats down in Florida with those ballots. They're playing hide and seek too. Oh, sorry. A lot of hide and seek going on lately, Scott, isn't it?
Oh yeah, my daughter called me up and says, "Dad, can I stay and play longer? This is the most fun I've ever had."
Oh,
You
that's
know?
great.
And they weren't on their devices. They were out
Good.
playing in nature and just having a good time and very safe environment. And so, you know, she was extremely happy. And so I let her have an extra half hour. You know, we have a curfew at 10 o'clock. And you're there, she has to be in by 10, and I let her
Hmm.
out till 10:30. She was so happy, but she was having a
Wow.
great time out there in nature.
Yeah.
And we as adults, you know, I've been telling people, go out and hike up a hill,
Yeah.
asking and releasing your negative energies,
Yeah.
and asking the ascended masters to give you answers. And on the way down the hill, don't say anything, just listen. And let me tell you, I've had people having marvelous experiences just doing that. It's very simple.
Right.
Just go out into nature, hike up a hill, letting go of your questions, and then listen on the way back down. And I've had people being visited by the ascended masters and by beings of light and given answers. So there is hope out there,
Mm.
and we can get the answers.
Well, back to California. Now, it's in times like this, like during Hurricane Sandy and all these storms and Katrina, and people knew what to do. No one really needed to be herded or told what to do. People's own instinct. If you're a human being, you know what to do. It's like a switch goes on, and people know how to organize and instantly help one another. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's just how we are. In the essence of human beings, we are the good Samaritan,
We
and
are.
we know how to help people. Now, there's going to be thousands, but at least 6,000 people are homeless. Their homes were burned. Is that the right number? Don't
It's
quote me on
higher.
that.
It's higher than that.
It's
I,
higher than that.
I know that there was many more. In fact, two people we were mentoring that were living in paradise, their home burned to the ground. They were luckily in Las Vegas at a conference with Joe Dispenza, and
Mm.
they were not home. But when they got home, their whole everything was gone. Nothing was left.
Could you imagine?
And luckily, they have friends that took them in, but they're destitute. They have nothing. And, so even, having gold and silver in your home doesn't help because it's gone. And
Imagine.
so luckily we have good people taking these people in, taking care of them, giving them a place to stay. I have another one that I know that's up in that area who took an elderly couple, 85 and 80 years old, an elderly couple, and she took them into her home and is taking care of them right now.
Right. That's
So,
what we have to do. Exactly. I mean, right after Hurricane Sandy, I took people in my home because their home was 6 feet underwater. And I brought my children into the church, and we were working at the food pantry for 5 years, and just teaching, the children that this is, you help your brother. You help your brother and sister. It doesn't matter why they're there. It doesn't matter why they came through that front door. It's none of our business. They're there because they need help.
yeah,
And you either want to be a good person, be a good Samaritan, and this is what we have to do, folks. And there's so many good people out there, and let me just say that all the people who contributed to the Road to the White House fund drive, we need you to contribute. We need you to keep this going so we can get GoldFish Report, stay down at the Gold. We can maybe make it a regular visit down in DC. Otherwise, we'll only be going maybe once a month if we can raise the funds. And it's really only $1,000, really, folks, for 3 days. So it's not a lot. But we do need to have supporters. We do need to have patrons who can make a commitment on a month-to-month basis of a significant commitment in order to see GoldFish Report down at the White House and have the opportunity to ask questions to the president. Not mainstream questions, but questions that you and I talk about, issues you and I talk about that we follow, and get those answers for our viewers. But we definitely need to make sure that if you want to see alternative media, if you want to see social media, GoldFish Report down there, we need to keep that going as well.
yeah.
But these are folks also that need to be helped. Now, the president has made a declaration, very important. Last night, he published it regarding releasing more emergency funds to expedite the helping of these people who have no place to go. So I really hope that people will consider being a good Samaritan at their, own discretion, at their own discretion. But folks, this is where we have to come together, find out where they're collecting food, help cook meals for people if you don't have a place to take people in, if you don't feel comfortable with that. There's many things you can do a clothing drive. I couldn't believe our church after Hurricane Sandy. It was packed. Everybody had whatever they needed. It was amazing how this country, all over the country, we had people beyond our country. We had Canadians bringing down truckloads of supplies. It was amazing. And people know what to do. They just know what to do. They know how to help prepare meals. Find your local church or synagogue or temple, and find out how you can prepare food for people. They're going to need food, folks. They're going to need meals to eat. They need to know people care about them. They didn't do this. There's no cause. There's no fault of their own. They lost their homes. But it's our response to this that's going to make a difference. So if people are getting this report out in California or in the areas surrounding California, if you have some time, you can take off to go and help. These people need it.
Oh,
Whole
huge,
communities destroyed.
huge. And it not only helps them, but it helps us because it moves us into that consciousness that is love and taking care of each other. And that's where we all need to be. So, in some ways, this is a blessing, believe it or not, to those of us who need to rise up and get in that higher consciousness. It's a good opportunity for us to do that. And so please give, and don't don't have anything within you that withholds your love for these people because they need it right now worse than ever.
I mean, holiday season's coming up. I mean, this is really tragic for these people, folks. Really, really tragic. So these people need meals, they need clothing, they need cars. They're going to need a car. They're going to need a way to replace this. I don't know, Scott, what happens with I don't know what happened in the past with these fires and fire insurance, and whether these people, I'm sure they're not even adequately covered, because it never is adequate. I'm sorry to say, but sure, it's never. There's always some reason, some excuse, some loophole or something where people aren't adequately covered for these tragedies
Yeah,
and
and they're going to
rainy
call it
cars.
a natural disaster, which, they don't cover. And so, a lot of these people aren't covered. And in fact, they've lost everything and have no way to recoup. And so, it's our job as human beings to take care of each other. And by doing that, it will help your consciousness and help prepare you for higher thinking, higher realms of thought. So definitely stay out of shame, blame, guilt, anger, and all these things, and get up into the higher consciousness. This is the message Saint Germain wants us to do, is take care of each other, love each other, help get everybody into that higher consciousness, the love consciousness. If you don't want to call it Christ consciousness, call it love consciousness, because that's what it is.
Well, that's what we're doing. I mean, what we're talking about right now, this conversation that we're having is, we are resonating at the higher frequencies of being a good Samaritan and loving your brother and helping your brother and sister and in their time of need. And there's no more important message especially going into these holiday seasons. We're going to have, and I'm not going to get political about Thanksgiving, okay? But let's just say Thanksgiving's a day that we can just be thankful for life and for whatever we have in life, okay? Let's not get political about, I'm not going to right now, because that is another topic. But
Yeah,
I choose to look at Thanksgiving as a day to just be thankful and grateful for what you have.
yeah.
And that, and I think we're leading into that. And I'm hoping that, I know that the government's going to be providing a lot of funding for these people, so they will hopefully have the ability to rebuild or to relocate. Now, unfortunately, I think it's going to be more relocate, because I think as difficult as it is to think and to even conceive that someone could do this for an agenda, if someone has an agenda or a real, economic reason to do this, it's disheartening, and it's really it's tragic, to think that we're all turning our heads and looking the other way while others are deliberately destroying homes, when we don't know that for a fact yet, but it doesn't look good, like you're saying, Scott. So we're trying to broadcast, if you will,
Yes.
these higher frequencies, and we can't stop what happened, but what we can do is we can show them love. We can show them as much love as we can, brotherly love. We can, show, I think what Saint Germain definitely wanted as a result of this, Scott, is for people to just, put down those differences.
Put down our barriers, put down our judgment. One of the things I had a lesson about this morning was let go of your self-judgment and move into a higher consciousness, because I get these emails and then they get marked as important, and I get so many I don't even get to all of them. And so the people get frustrated, and I have to say, I apologize, please forgive me. But my gratitude to the people is so high. I just love that people are of a higher consciousness. They want to accomplish good things. They want to move into the higher ways of thinking.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, I am just so grateful for all of you. And believe it or not, gratitude
Mm.
it vibrates in Christ consciousness. So it's one of the highest vibrations. So, Oprah talks about a gratitude journal and how you mark down what you're grateful for. It actually raises your consciousness up into love consciousness. Because when you're expressing gratitude, it's so important. And when we help people by offering them help, guess what happens to them?
Mm.
They go into gratitude.
Right.
And so it raises our efforts, will raise them up into higher consciousness.
Yeah, it is very tragic, folks. It's so tragic what's going on in California. So let's try to thank you so much, Scott, for your message and for Saint Germain's guidance, because it's very hard to understand why these things happen to people. Nobody wanted to see images of people burned in their alive in their cars. I mean, this is this has to really hit people on a very, very visceral level, and it really needs to change us for the better. And
Yeah,
maybe there will be some good coming of this. Maybe the ultimate master's plans that there are up there, um, you know, may actually be helping us more than anything else, more
yeah,
than more than hurting us. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It just seems like anyone that's got these ill intent toward anyone of the light or any good people in humanity, it seems to be really backfiring on them these days. And instead of creating that, just like what you're saying, Scott, instead of keeping people down in those lower vibrations by the outpouring of support and love to these people, brotherly love, um, these people are instantly being, like you said, like exponentially or logarithmically shot right up into these higher consciousness, kind of almost, skipping a few levels, just going directly to, the top. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because we carry a higher resonance on the planet when we do that, like you're saying.
yeah. They'll forever remember the good that happened to them, and
Yeah,
they'll forever be grateful, and that gratitude will keep them elevated.
yeah.
Now, one of the other things that Saint Germain wanted me to discuss a little bit, I've been getting a lot of ex-military men coming into me because they've been damaged emotionally, and it's kind of sad because this last guy I saw, his sergeant stood on his chest and told me what a maggot he was, and just self-deprecating things. And that's a form of mind control, believe
Yeah.
it or not. Putting people in a state where they don't feel good about themselves, where, maybe I am a maggot, maybe I am worthless. And we need to know that we are worthwhile. We are all of us humans, very powerful beings. In fact, that's why they're trying to control us. They want to control our power and use it for their ill intent. And so, one of the reasons they use these devices, use even the artificial intelligence, is to control our self value and control our consciousness. Because our consciousness is so powerful, they know that if they can control it, they can control the planet. And so we as humans need to take back our control, take back control of the planet, and move into the higher consciousness. And even with the military men, this guy, he left my office. He says, I haven't felt this good about myself in years.
Wow.
And our job is to raise them to a higher evaluation of their own good within them. Because all of us have good and we have bad. And choosing that wolf, the story of the two
Right.
wolves,
Which
where we
one you
can
feed?
choose the higher minded wolf, or we can choose the dark wolf that gives us dark energy. And by following that higher intention, we can raise our consciousness. And that's all it is. It's a choice. And that choice is given to all of us. Even if we're in prison, we can make a choice to hire a higher conscious, to follow the higher consciousness, or follow a lower consciousness. Even when I was in prison, my thought every day was to get up and help the other prisoners, help them get into a higher consciousness. They used to call me Reverend Scott in the prison, because I'd always bring their elevate their thoughts and their feelings, and make them feel better about themselves. Instead of making little knives out of different things, we'd make plowshares and do good things. So that's where we are at, and that's what we need to do is make plows out of metal, not make knives.
I'm sorry, Scott, but you got me on that one.
Oh, good. Laughter is a higher
Yeah,
vibration too.
I'm sorry, that was a little funny. Okay, you know what happens to me. Winston always warned everybody not to get me laughing. Okay, so
Well, you've got a beautiful laugh, so let me tell you, go ahead and laugh.
no,
It's very good fun.
sorry, just something peculiar about that. Okay,
Um,
so look, I mean, what we're trying to do is put out this message. This is definitely a very good vibration, but you know, these people are going to go through a lot of stages in their healing and in their grief, in their loss, but also in their gain of things and people, and their lives have changed. There's no question, and they're going to continue to change. The question is, are we all going to change? Are we all going to be part of that change as well? Are we going to look and see the good of humanity and bring ourselves up? You know, kick ourselves up the stairs a few steps and bring ourselves up a little bit higher, so that, you know, I think the ultimate goal everybody has, or not, you know, all humans have the goal, I think, mostly. They're genuinely good people, and I think that when they can think for themselves and choose to think for themselves, they usually know what the right choice is. And right now is the time to be helping your brothers and sisters out in California, our family members, our friends out there. Just, you know, follow the Goldfish Report news page. I will also post it on the blog, so you could go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com. If the viewers hear of any place that's taking in organizing a drive for clothing, or if there's food kitchens set up, pantries set up. Pantries, they don't have a home to bring the food to. They need meals right now. They need places where they can go get meals. That's what they need. They're going to need these cards. I guess the FEMA will put out debit cards for people so they can go buy some things that they need, personal effects, and maybe food and things of that nature too. These people need it. There's no question these people need it. So let's hope that that's going to be sufficient for now. Long term, these people have a long road ahead of them. It's a lot of people, and you know, the whole thing is, put, as Scott said, put our differences aside. Forget about what religion, what political affiliation you are. You know, Scott, the one thing that is so disappointing is today people people are willing to kill over their ideology, and it's always been this way, but it's far more extreme today than it ever has been. In the United States, this is why we're going to talk about this immigration issue. We have the right to our opinion. We have the right to free speech here, and you don't have the right to kill somebody over it. But this is what's happening. It's getting to be this radical. And so, you know, we have to be able to respectfully disagree. Okay, it's not about forcing your opinion, making someone believe what you want to believe. That person, you know, there's many issues are very complicated. There's many pieces to the puzzle of a particular issue. It's not black and white. It's not like this or that. It really isn't, you know, and America has to be particularly careful. And as I do this immigration review, the reason I'm doing it was because I wanted to get to the heart of really what was involved in the decisions, and how do we try, we're the melting pot of the world. So how do we continue to be inclusive, but in a fair way? And there were always quotas. You know, quotas was really how they had to handle this, so that there was not more than one population immigrating at a time, that there was a controlled amount. So it was just a certain percentage was allowed, and then there were places in the world that weren't allowed. And that's because there's certain laws and certain practices, and there's one law that I'm going to be reviewing and it actually has a stipulation in there regarding female genital mutilation, which happens in other cultures, but it's illegal in the United States for anyone to perform this under the age of 18. So people need to inform and educate themselves of the consequences of anybody. Scott, you would be an expert in knowing what are the consequences if they call it female circumcision, but really, who needs to have this done? This is crazy. We've never heard of it in our society. At least that's how we feel about it here. So the problem is, how do we stay American and homogeneous and still respect our cultural differences. And this is our ultimate challenge, but it should not be something that brings us down. So that's why we have to, put aside our differences. Whatever's happening in California, they're our brothers and sisters, they're fellow Americans, and that's what counts.
And see, and that's what I love about our Constitution, and why we need to bring it back, is it declares that we're all created equal and we all have rights, equal rights. And let me tell you, we need to spread that rather than make it disappear, which is what they're trying to do, making us socialists, because socialism has been proven to enslave people.
Yeah.
And, whether you want to know it or not, the one world order is a form of socialist communism.
Right.
And so they're trying to institute this in the whole entire world. And what it's going to do is make the United States just another third world country, because
totally backwards.
You have the freedom of expression and the freedom of creativity. Humans are so creative. We can create all kinds of marvelous things if we're allowed to.
Yeah.
And, the suppression of these beautiful creative things through the patents or through government labeling top secret, it's not right. And we need to let out these devices and make them available to the entire world. St. Germain, he even had me include a chapter about free energy devices in the book, The Next Step in Human Evolution, because we've got to let them out to free humanity. If we can't take care of food, water, basic shelter, we can't get off that bottom layer of slavery into the higher vibratory states that humans get into in Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Isn't that interesting, Scott, how that pyramid, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is very similar to this chart that you shared with us today? Because basically people who are stuck in despair, we're talking about the basic bottom, right, rung is your most essential biological needs. And then from there they go into your need for housing and shelter and social need, love. Love is a very biological basic need that human beings have.
Basic need.
It's very basic, and you can't go up that higher. You can't go up that ladder to self-actualization or you can also correspond that to certain levels on your chart, right? To your Christ consciousness level on your chart. You can't get there. You can't ordinarily just jump up there. You really have to go through. So these are major growth opportunities when these tragedies happen.
Yeah.
Aren't they, Scott?
Very, very good. I'm glad we brought up Maslow's hierarchy, because literally when these things hit, they take away your basic food, shelter, water, things you need to stay alive. And so, as we assist others, we'll help them move back up that ladder and get into the love consciousness. And this is the goal. We need to get our entire planet Earth back into love consciousness. And we're going to do this through our conscious effort and intent.
It would be much better if we could just do it on our own, but no, we have to have these tragedies to do it, and if so be it, because it doesn't look like people are going to wake up without them, and maybe that's why they're doing it. So, I would hope there would be a whole lot less of these tragedies to force us into these higher vibratory states. But we're going to get there. I think humanity will get there, but we have to stick together. So, Scott, what a wonderful message. Is there any other final thoughts that you want to leave our viewers with today?
Yes, I need to give a blessing.
Very
Great
good.
divine directors coming through, so we need to give a blessing right now. So, in the name of the Almighty Creator of the universe, and by mandate of all the ascended masters, we give you a blessing. All those who can hear my voice and who will hear it later, we bless you that you will move into the Christ consciousness or love consciousness. We bless you that your vibration will increase and that you will assist humanity in increasing their vibration by giving them love and hope and peace, and giving them the basics of food, water, shelter, and protection. We bless all of you that despite all of the efforts of the dark side, that you will receive light and love and illumination, that be grateful for what you do have, be grateful for your life, and that you are able to go through these transcensions of processes that will lead you to your ascension. We bless each and every one of you to have love in your heart and give as deeply as you can to those in need, and help all those around you. Communicate with one another. Put down your devices and have interaction. Give a hug to somebody. Give your compassion and love to somebody, and let them know that they are important and that they are a part of our human effort and accomplishment. We bless you with all of these blessings, and do it in the name of the Almighty I am that I am. So be it, so it is. God bless each and every one of us.
So it is.
Yes.
Thank
So
you
be
for
it
that,
to you.
Scotch. Thank you so much for that blessing. I think everybody needed that. We needed to hear it. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me. And I apologize to everybody who I haven't taken care of. I'll get to you eventually.
Oh, Scott, doctors are notoriously bad for getting back on messages, so it's okay. I think everybody understands that. But, you'll get to it. I mean, I get a lot of messages too, and folks, I can't get back to everybody either because I'm just so busy going between DC and New York. It's like, forget it. So it's getting a little bit busy and hectic now, but it's good stuff. So thank you so much.
Grateful for all of you.
Absolutely. We're grateful for all the viewers. Folks, please share this far and wide. We are so shadow banned on Facebook and YouTube. People aren't even getting the messages. YouTube, Facebook, they are so naughty. They're really cutting down on our viewership. We were having about 170,000 weekly, and last week we were during the election at the White House, they cut us down. They throttled the viewership and the reach that our news page was getting on Facebook down to about 38,000. So let me tell you something. This is not fair. This is antitrust for sure, because we trust that there will be fair, good faith and fair dealings, and there are laws about that. There are laws, civil laws about dealing in business and things of that nature in good faith. So, and I think that clearly they violated that. I think we're going to see the Senate go into that more, but we'll talk about that in another report, not for today. So thank you for joining us, Scott. Thank you so much. We're so grateful for your guidance and for your guidance in Saint Germain, and all the Ascended Masters, and to all the people out in California. Our hearts are with you. Our prayers are with you. And I will post, as I get information, I will post it on the Facebook page and on our blog. So please, if you're out in California and you're looking for information, please go to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com. And if there's any information that we can share and post to help you, we will post it there. We'll post it also on our news page on Facebook for you. So we really need to pull together, be good Samaritans for our brothers and sisters out there. So thanks to everybody. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
And this concludes this edition of the Goldfish Report.